I think we can all agree that Warzone has been slowly dying ever since its launch, and especially over the past few months, yet it is still incredibly popular despite almost no good things going for it. Why is that, and what will finally kill Warzone? And before we do get into that though, if you are new here, I do hope you enjoy your stay, and maybe consider leaving a like and subscribing for more content like this, but if you are returning, you already know what we're about. Talking back on Warzone though, this game has been struggling ever since I would say the Cold War integration, and recently this game has been drastically losing players from the game's internal problems and Activision's lawsuit, and it has me wondering, what will finally kill the juggernaut that is Warzone? I think one of the bigger arguments though that is being made so far is that the death of Warzone will be because of the release of Battlefield and Halo later this fall, and normally I would say that wouldn't happen because I still strongly believe that the only thing that will kill COD is COD. The only problem is that I wouldn't classify Warzone as COD. I define COD as a yearly $60 game. Warzone is really just a free-to-play expansion upon this that gets mainly the spotlight of all of COD, so while I don't really regard it as COD, I guess it does get the spotlight out of the entire franchise, but regardless, I still think this argument can be made for Warzone. Now, most Warzone players aren't COD players. They just want to play whatever the popular game is and have almost zero loyalty to COD itself. These are the players that don't buy the $60 game yearly, they just have it as an afterthought. Now, of course, there are some players on Warzone that are COD players that mainly play Warzone because they do enjoy it, but they don't matter really too much here because they are the loyal ones to COD. Mainly though, it's just the players that aren't really COD players which makes up the vast majority of Warzone, but regardless, these people are still the ones that can make the argument that Battlefield and Halo will be the death of Warzone as a possibility, especially with Halo's multiplayer being free. If just one of these games pops off and people start playing it, those Warzone players will jump ship immediately and leave Warzone in the dust. And now while I can get behind this argument even more so because I have never seen so many COD players willing to jump ship because the past several CODs have been just terrible, I still don't think this will be the end of Warzone. I personally believe that Warzone is the death of Warzone. More like Activision is the death of Warzone, but regardless, Warzone will kill itself, which I guess is COD will kill itself, but it's kind of different here, especially with the route it's going on. I want you to think here of Warzone and its biggest problem currently right now and tell me what it is in the comments. I'll even give you a second. Let me guess though, if you're a console player, it was probably not having an FOV slider, or if you're a PC player or a console player at this point, it's probably the cheating. Now, the FOV slider, in my opinion, isn't the biggest problem here. Don't get me wrong though, it is still a problem when you have to play people that have several more advantages than you for simply just having a computer. It's still just not the biggest problem within the game right now though. Cheating is definitely the bigger one. Cheating has become such a big problem that it's surprising for people to have a lobby without a cheater in it. And this is probably even worse for players that don't suck at the game because with the terrible skill-based matchmaking system, it makes it where they have probably a cheater every single game, which has to be so incredibly unfun. This game has been out for well over a year and has zero anti-cheat installed. Instead, the game has a terrible ban wave system that does almost nothing because it can't even detect half the cheats, and the waves only bans the profiles, no IP bans or hardware bans. Just a simple slap on the wrist with the profile ban, and the game is free. So you see the problem here? They're just going to go make another account and cheat and do it forever because there's no punishment whatsoever. Having a ban wave will never fix the cheating problem, ever. It's like having an ant problem, but instead of just getting an exterminator to get rid of the ants, you just kill a couple of ants expecting no more to come. You can kill as many ants as you want and as many waves as you want. The problem here is that it will never resolve the issue as long as there are still ants alive and they're still reproducing. And that is the big problem in Warzone. And while cheating is a huge problem, let's say we got rid of the cheats and there's just no cheaters ever and it's back to just, if you're a good player, you're just a good player, if you're bad, you're just bad. Another thing is that, once again, this game has been out for over a year and there is still only one main map in the game. Yes, Rebirth is technically a new map, but at the end of the day, it's just Alcatraz from Blackout. Other than that, Verdansk is a new map that has been the same thing since the launch. The only thing we have seen is a reskin of the map that added maybe 6 new POIs, and while some events have added some cool things like the satellites, they go away after 2 weeks, so there's no point whatsoever. There have been no new refreshers to the map that last. It's so dry, and I think people are starting to finally get fed up with it. Warzone is pretty much the only battle royale that still only has one main map. Fortnite has a new map from its original that is also adding huge new POIs almost every single season, well actually every season probably. Apex has several maps within its map pool, and PUBG has several maps within it as well. there have been almost no new significant content in Warzone, and really the only content that is constantly being added is bundles in the store that are incredibly overpriced because, as we've known forever, Activision is still a terrible company that their only interest is money and nothing else, including its own employees and their fans, and that's another problem with this. Regardless of the cheaters, there's almost zero new big content in this game to refresh it. It's just like a desert here, and I think that will also drive away many players as well, because if there's nothing to do, and it's the same thing you've been doing for over a year, you're not going to want to do it anymore. It's just boring. Why would anyone ever want to do the same thing for over a year? That's literally the definition of insanity. But one last thing though that I think will contribute to the end of Warzone is the content creators and where the views are. Over the past several weeks, we have seen huge faces in Warzone take a break from the game because they can't even stand it despite how much better their streams would be if they did play the game. Prime examples of this include Courage and Nickmercs, and this is where I think a domino effect would come in place where more content creators start to leave the game, which makes the hype for the game die down, because a lot of Warzone's success can be attributed to the views from YouTube and TikTok, making people want to jump on the game. And if there's no one making content on it, content creators start leaving, and people that are trying to stay loyal to the game start losing views rapidly, which makes them leave because you gotta put food on the table somehow. So it's just a domino effect of everyone eventually leaving because there's no views, which means no money, which means there's no content whatsoever, and that is another big problem I see with the death of Warzone. And that's only some problems though within the game. And with the silence and non-transparency from Raven and Activision, there is no fix to this game in sight, and that's where this game starts to fall off as well, because there's absolutely nothing to be excited for, because nothing that will be a quality of life is coming as far as we know. Overall though, while I would like to see Warzone to die because no game as terrible as it is now should be able to succeed and it single-handedly ruined 6v6 COD, I also want to see the game be fixed because deep down I still do think it's a good BR, just plagued with a couple of problems at first that turned out to be huge problems that they have yet to address. And yes, I do know that this game is people's jobs, which is another reason I want to see it fixed, because yes, I still, regardless of how much I hate Warzone, I still want to see people that love the game be able to make content on the game and get paid for it and live out their dreams. But I just gotta say, it probably won't happen, because if it didn't happen the past year, it probably won't happen in the future. And honestly, I've never seen such a lack of a care from a AAA developer before like this, and it's not looking so promising in the future. Let me know though what you think of this and what you think will be the death of Warzone in the comments below, but until next time, see ya.